You know what, Jamie? Let's pop off right now. We got to get started.
We got to go.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's get the people in the chat. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from IRSportsDaily.com. I'm your host, Greg Flamong, and with me, as always, or not as always, as a special occasion, is the Godfather. Mike Frank is on the show. We have breaking news. You texted me 45 minutes ago, more than that, an hour and a half ago, that this was going to go down, and so okay, we go live, and I said, yeah, we can go live if we need to. So. We're here to discuss Gerad Parker, reported originally by Pete Thamel of ESPN that Gerad Parker is going to take the head coaching job at Troy University, and so he is going to be taking that position. Notre Dame is going to be in the market for a new offensive coordinator for the football team in 2024. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If this is your first time catching us, please hit the like button. Please subscribe to our channel. Please hit the notification bell so you know whenever it is we are going live. And this is a specific situation for that. When you want to go live and you don't, this is not a scheduled thing. We don't usually go on Mondays. And so this is why you want to hit the notification bell. Notre Dame is looking to upgrade their offensive coordinator position. And if you're looking to upgrade your wardrobe, then what you can do is you can head over to ESQclothing.com for this holiday season. We're in the thick of it now, so you're going to want to head over to ESQ Clothing. There's no better gift for your husband, father, brother, son, nephew, who might be celebrating a new offensive coordinator. You've seen ESQ's bamboo dress shirt on all your favorite players and coaches. It's the world's most comfortable dress shirt made of sustainable bamboo fibers. The bamboo shirt is naturally odor-resistant, wrinkle-resistant, even machine washable. Also 3 degrees cooler than cotton, so you can sweat it out while you're waiting for news for an offensive coordinator for the Notre Dame football team. Get ahead of the holiday season. Use ISD25 to get 25% off your online purchase at ESQclothing.com or visit God in the Chicago showroom to get your custom fit. That's ISD25 for 25% off. Mike, we have I think we had all heard that Notre Dame might have been waiting for Gerad Parker to get a position like this. This was something that they thought could happen, and so it has happened, and now Notre Dame is going to move on. What is your initial reaction to this news? And then you can maybe drop some insight on who Notre Dame is looking at to be their offensive coordinator.
First of all, I want to say, Greg, great job with the show as always. Sorry the Yama isn't here, but Yama's out traveling with Christmas. Going to take the family back to the other side of Canada and everything. So this always happens when Yama's in the middle of something. So I called him. I'm like, dude, this is going to happen. And he's like, man, I'm at the airport. So I felt bad for him because he loves this kind of stuff as much as we do. Safe travels to the Yama. I'm sure he'll have some thoughts and comments as soon as he gets landed and all that type of thing. So, I heard about the possibility of this. I'd actually heard another possibility before at a different team, and that never came to fruition. I'd heard about this last week, and there's a reason you don't say anything about this stuff, Greg, is because it can be very damaging. And just like the previous situation that I heard, had I said that, then all of a sudden Notre Dame would be like, I don't know where this is coming from. He's not interviewing at other places. We don't know what you're talking about, that type of thing. And it can be difficult when it comes to signing day, which is 2 days away. Yeah. But when it becomes a situation or reality of what we're seeing here, and of course, Troy, they want to announce a head coach because signing day is Wednesday. So, of course, Notre Dame, would love to, see how this all unfolds before or after signing day. But hey, you just got to do what you got to do. And I think it's important to point out, and I mentioned this on the board too, Greg. I know there's a lot of people who have been frustrated with the offense and what has happened, but I just hope people are respectful about all of this and just realize, Gerad Parker is an offensive coordinator essentially for the first time, at least a first full year of doing it. And, I wasn't very good at my job when I first started. I'm sure, Greg, you probably weren't great at your jobs when you first started.
Right.
And it's a learning experience. And so I just hope people understand that, by all accounts, Gerad Parker is a wonderful person. The coaching staff loved working with him. I think they believed in him. They liked him as a person and as a coach. So just wish the guy well, and let's just move on and see what happens moving forward. So, I don't want to see a lot of people, going crazy about this and, saying a bunch of negative things, because what good is that going to do at this point? And I think it also goes to show you, Greg, there were a lot of fans that were, saying after all these games, why isn't Marcus Freeman, just hammering his offensive coordinator? Why isn't he talking about how terrible this is? Well, if Marcus Freeman goes on camera and says, our offensive coordinator is terrible, who's going to hire that guy?
Right.
You have to be smart about things. And I don't think that Marcus Freeman felt like things were as bad as some of the fans do. And I think Marcus Freeman saw the opportunity to fix some things, and that's why he would be back if none of this had happened. But this allows them an opportunity to make a move now, and we'll see where this is all headed. I know there's going to be a lot of names. The Yaman and I discussed some names, and I'm sure he's putting together his list, and that'll be up soon. I do think that Mike Denbrock is a very good candidate for this situation, and for a lot of reasons, Greg. The first being, you just worked with a running quarterback, and look at the magic that he put together with a guy who runs football. And not only that, he designed a lot of plays to run the football with that guy. So he knows how to deal with a guy like Leonard and design a game plan around him. So I think that would be first and foremost. Two, you don't have to worry about the tight ends. I mean, he's coached tight ends at an elite level for a long, long period of time. Three, he knows Notre Dame probably better than the vast majority of coaches at Notre Dame right now. He's been around it. He understands the situation. Four, he's, an older guy. Probably not going to get a lot of head coaching opportunities at this point because he is older. That may happen. It may not. But I also think that, if I'm Mike Denbrock, you're not going to take Troy. You're not going to take Miami of Ohio. If you're going to do a big job, it's going to be a big job. And it's not going to be, just some of these other things. So if he were to be the guy, you probably got a guy that's going to be around for a while. And really, that's what Marcus Freeman needs more than anything. It's nice having Al Golden around, an experienced guy. And I felt like that's what he needed at offense as well. And, that didn't happen for whatever reason with the Andy Ludwig situation. But now Notre Dame has the opportunity to fix it. And so let's step up to the plate. Whatever mistakes you made at the last point, let's fix it at this point. And I just have a feeling Notre Dame's going to look at it that way. You've got a lot of stuff. I mean, look at the defense coming back, Greg. There's a lot to like about this team here. And if you can get an experienced offensive coordinator in there and somebody who's worked with a running quarterback like Denbrock, I think it's a great situation if that were to happen. Now, I know a lot of people will say, well, he just agreed to a contract extension, which he did, based off of the reports at LSU. We know that Texas A&M came very hard after Mike Denbrock and tried to hire him from LSU. And but agreeing to a deal and signing a deal is two different things. And I don't know if anybody's ever really dealt with this kind of thing, but contracts take a long time in this. You have to deal with language and things like that. So I'm not sure that he'd even have a contract in hand to sign at this point, sign one. So that's the only reason that I think that they'd have a chance to land him when it's all said and done. I know Mike going way back to his first stint under Tyrone, and I knew him really well then. Obviously knew him through the Kelly years as well. He likes Notre Dame. I know that he likes Notre Dame. Whether he'll come or not, I have no idea. But I do know that he likes it. I know his wife and his son like it. And so I think that it wouldn't be such of a big move. They got friends that are here on campus and things like that. Again, I don't know where it's going to happen, but I do think it would make the most sense if you could make that happen. And we'll go from there. What do you think about that?
Well, so Chris Irway's got some questions in the chat here. Denbrock's new deal pays him more than most head coaches. Would Notre Dame pony up? Will the administration be willing? Listen, after what happened last year, they cannot. If it comes out that Mike Denbrock is like the focus, you have to get the finish line with that. Like, they cannot do this again, right? It would just be. First of all, it would fly in the face of like everything they've done with the portal this year and how they've supported the program and how they've supported Marcus Freeman in getting in undergrads, like non-grad transfers into the portal, like Riley Leonard, not a graduate, Bo Collins, not a graduate, right? You're getting these guys into the program. Okay, so that's part of it. The other part is like they have to do it. The optics of last year's search, that can't happen again. Just full stop. So, like, this one is a situation where Marcus can really, like, hey, I have my coach. This is who I want. I don't care who it costs. You go make it happen, right? And so that's that part of it. The other part is you look at Mike Denbrock, one of the best recruiting, B, developers of receivers that Notre Dame has had. Now, he wouldn't be coaching. It would be Mike Brown coaching wide receivers. But, like, he knows how to recruit that position as well. Tight ends, he was a tight end coach. I think the 2015 offense, not just from like it was the most explosive offense Notre Dame has had in a really long time from a passing game standpoint, from a running game standpoint. Like, you can completely see how that would something like his offense would benefit. Like Jeremiah Love, for example, Jadarian Price, for example. Like they can get these guys going. Obviously, the field. Take advantage of someone like Will Fuller, right? That had a great year under when Mike Denbrock was calling plays for Notre Dame. And then if you look at just recruiting and developing quarterbacks and putting an offense, he just had the Heisman Trophy winner as his quarterback, right? Like if you're CJ Carr and you look at that, you think that, hey, I want to be a part of that. You're Deuce Knight. You look at that and say, I want to be a part of that.
If right? I'm Deuce Knight, I'm loving that. I'm loving that.
Yes,
and CJ Carr.
Exactly. So, like, that is something that they would get very excited about, right? And Riley Leonard as well. Like, Leonard has a very similar type skill set in terms of running the football as Jaden Daniels. So, I think if that's the focus, I think you go after him. You make it happen. As far as the contract and everything, that cannot matter this year. It simply cannot after what happened last year. And look, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I think the only thing that would be the negative would be if he has actually signed it, right? Because the buyout could be
the $8
million bucks at this point.
The buyout would be the most.
So
it would be,
and that would be the thing that would be the only concerning thing about it. I agree with you 1,000%. Though, look. It already cost you $2 million by not being in a good bowl this year, right?
Yeah.
It's going to cost you $2 million every year. You need to make sure you get into that playoff, right? That's the most important thing, Greg. And this is a guy that if he's competent, he's shown that, he could do a lot of things at Cincinnati with a guy who wasn't necessarily a developed quarterback at the time, then turned around and did the same thing at LSU, a guy that kind of came off the trash heap in Jaden Daniels, and they resurrected his career. And granted, they have some good receivers at LSU. We know that, and it makes it easier when you have that kind of stuff. But I don't think that they have the run game that Notre Dame has, and that will open some things up for Notre Dame. So, you talk about experience, and I just think that that's what Marcus Freeman needs more than anything at this point right now is experience and somebody who understands the situation. So the only thing that I could see throwing a wrench in it if I'm Notre Dame is if he signed the contract and they have to buy out 4 years. I mean, that may make it extremely difficult. I don't think that that's the case. I don't know that for a fact. I wasn't there for the negotiations. Right, I don't know what's been signed.
Yeah.
But I just know it's really quick to be able to have a contract in somebody's hand and be able to sign it at this point. And I'll tell you what, if I'm any offense or any agent, I don't ever tell my guys to sign anything until the season, the silly season is over, because you just don't know. And I'm sure that there are colleges and coaches and things like that want it done. But if I'm an agent and I'm worth anything in salt, I don't tell them at all. Oh, yeah. Well, I purposely nitpick things until the silly season is over because that's your job as an agent. You want to make sure that there's still options and things that are open. So I have a feeling it'll be, that it probably isn't signed. I don't know that, but it very well may be a situation where it's not signed at this point, and that could open the door for Notre Dame with Mike Denbrock, which I think would be wonderful. Want to mention again, everybody, if you haven't liked or like the show and everything, make sure you like and subscribe the show. We'll be on. There'll be a lot of stuff talking about moving forward with this and everything. So, when you look at the situation, Greg, and you look at other people, I mean, does anybody come to mind that you think would be a good fit at this point? That you'd say, you know what, if it isn't Denbrock, maybe take a look at this guy.
Yeah, Joe Marciano brought up somebody who I was going to mention is Kirby Moore from Missouri. They had a very good season. The type of offense that they run is somewhat similar to what Colin Klein was doing. Not as much like in the running game in terms of just like different ways to get the quarterback running the ball in different like run schemes in that sense, but like they ran the ball very effectively, right? They had one of the Thorpe or the Doak Walker finalists in there. Cody Schrader was their running back, so he had a very good season, kind of out of nowhere, right? So it didn't need to be a big time back or anything like that. He able to get the talent on hand. They had a very good season at Missouri, and I think he's someone who's young. He was at Fresno State before. He's a quarterback coach, so that would kind of necessitate something going on with Gino there. So he's someone that you would want to you would want to look at. I always say, like, look, I know he just took the job at Michigan State. Brian Lindgren out with formerly of Oregon State. Now he's Michigan State. Like I would call him. I would like, cause like, honestly, I understand it's Michigan State and Jonathan Smith is your boy, but you can be at Notre Dame, the University of Notre Dame, and what that can do for you.
And right? I bet he'd listen.
Yeah, and
his contract isn't going to be signed by now either.
Exactly. So that's another one where it's like, I would look at him. Some people are mentioning Jason Candle. Maybe, right? Like, didn't he just take a job? Didn't he just take a job there somewhere? Jason Candle?
I hadn't heard.
I feel like he had, but people are mentioning him. I mean, to me, it makes more sense to go if you're going to go after Candle. You make sure, like you brought up Mike Denbrock, and did you? I want to be clear for everybody. You brought up Mike Denbrock for a reason, right? You're not just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I mean, like, I do think that he would be a legit candidate. I know him personally. I know how he feels about Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I know that he never liked leaving Notre Dame. I know that when Marcus, took the job, I'm sure he would have liked to have been considered, but of course they had Tom Rees, and I'm sure he would have liked to have been considered the last time when it was Andy Ludwig. But obviously he had just went down there to LSU, and it's hard to grab somebody who just signed a contract at LSU and that type of thing. So I do think that he'd be a candidate. I don't know for a fact that he's the number one guy or that, that type of thing at this point, but it just makes the most sense when you're looking at position and what they need. I mean, if we know that he can coach tight ends, and not only coach tight ends, but coach it at an elite level. He's been a great tight ends coach over the years, all the way back to Fasano and all those guys, just all those guys in that era. He coached all those guys and became NFL players. So, there's no doubt that this guy's a very good tight ends coach. And so because of the experience, because of the connection with Marcus Freeman, because he fits kind of what they need right now, and also position fits. They don't have to fire anybody to bring him aboard. I think that that's another positive to go with it. And again, I know it seems strange. You don't necessarily want somebody who's old, but I think what Marcus Freeman needs more than anything right now is somebody who can stabilize this offense and build an offense around. What you don't want to get is a guy who comes in for a year and a half and has a good season and is out the door. And you really need to, if you're going to get this right, you need to fix your offense to the point where it has an identity, you do things well, and you build things. And I think if you're constantly changing personnel and coaches, it's really difficult to get that kind of continuity and build a brand as far as this is what we do. I mean, look at how long it took Michigan to kind of build what they were doing under Harbaugh. It took a long time to get to where they're at. And, they had a lot of different coordinators, and now they finally have some stability there. And now Michigan is what Harbaugh has always wanted them to be. I think that Marcus Freeman needs to find somebody like that. And, Denbrock would check all those boxes for sure. So,
and it's just the institutional knowledge as well, right? Like, so the thing about Ludwig last year was that, hey, like the guy's been calling plays for such a long time, right? Yeah. He's been an OC for such a long time. You can just give him that side of the ball and you're good, right? But he's never worked at Notre Dame, right? He's never been a part of it. Denbrock's been a part of Notre Dame like for a number of years, right? Like over a span, like you said, he was there with Tyrone Willingham. He was there with Brian Kelly. Like he knows the university. And like that is a situation where I think Marcus Freeman would absolutely feel comfortable. And I think the fans as well, right? The fans, the university. I think university buy-in is very, important in this situation when it comes to evaluating Mike Denbrock. Like to me, if Mike Denbrock is interested, you do anything you can to make it happen because that fits as much as anything else. There might be other coordinators who like Ryan Grubb, like someone mentioned Ryan Grubb. He's not going to be the offensive coordinator. He's not going to do that, right? He didn't go to Alabama. He's not coming to Notre Dame. So, but the point is like he might be better, right? There might be better guys that you come up with. Like, you know what? I like his numbers. I like the way he runs offense. I like this, that, and the other thing. But it's kind of the same to me when you look at like Riley Leonard as a quarterback, right? Riley Leonard fits what Notre Dame wants to be style-wise and what they want to be like just kind of from almost a temperament standpoint, right? Now, maybe you like Cam Ward better. And maybe you like, I don't know, Pratt better, even though he's not going into the portal. But you know what I'm saying? Like, but I think Notre Dame needs fit as much as they need the talent. And I think that's
floor,
what it is with Denbrock.
I think floor too. With Mike Denbrock comes a huge high floor. And you're going to get at least a competent person. You know that he's had success at this level. You know that he just had success in the SEC level. He can go out there and now sell this to everybody. Hey, look, I'm not some flash in the pan dude. I just went and torched the SEC, the greatest conference that there is. And I just went out there and torched that. And so he has that legit cred right now, plus all knowing everything that he knows about Notre Dame, the experience and all that type of thing. He knows how people are going to sell against him, all those types of things. So again, I don't know what's going to happen with this. It just makes the most sense that because of the floor and all the things that we've said, that makes the most sense if you could pry that guy away, and we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens.
Joe Bro's asking about internal candidates.
I think Gino would certainly have to be someone who would be considered.
He would definitely interview.
Yeah, I would think so.
Talk to him.
I would think so. And we'll see how that all plays out. I think that he was a guy that obviously Marcus knows. Now, he wasn't an offensive coordinator at Cincinnati when Marcus was there. It was Denbrock. Mm-hmm. But obviously, they know each other and everything. So, I could see that he would be a candidate. But I think if you have the opportunity and you just walked into this situation, Greg, you go to Notre Dame and you say, look, it didn't work out last time. It has to work out this time. Give me what I need, pay what we need to pay, and let's just get it done. And I think Notre Dame was probably going to be agreeable to that because, look, it already cost them millions of dollars not going to a good bowl this year. And if you don't make the playoff next year, it's going to be harder for Marcus Freeman to become, the type of coach that they want. So it's really important. This is a huge, huge hire for Notre Dame, and you just got to hope that they make the right decisions and do what they're supposed to do with this. And I don't know, Greg. I'm excited to see. It almost seems like all these pieces are starting to fall into place. When you look at the as you mentioned, the portal, everybody was in panic mode. I get why everybody was in panic mode. It certainly was kind of an ugly situation, but once the dust settles, you sit there and say, you know what, we came out in a better situation than we were before. So, and they're not done there yet. So let's just see what happens, and we'll see what happens.
I think it's a chance for like a reset, essentially, for Marcus Freeman, because I think the way that it all kind of happened the first time, when you didn't know. He didn't know he was going to be the head coach, right, at the end of his first year, right? Like, no one knew. He didn't really plan on, like, all right, this is who I'm going to, like, this is who I'm going to hire, and this is what I want to be, and this is the kind of staff that I want to build, right? He's had 2 years now. He understands, like, what it takes to win. He understands what it takes to, like, not win, really, like the mistakes that he's made. And it's like, okay, this is what I need to focus on. This is what I would have done if I had more time to kind of evaluate, or this is what I would have done if I had known what I know now, right? And now he can do that, right? He can make a decision now. He went through the OC process last year, like he can learn from that, right? Like, there's always things that he can learn from here, and I think this is a good opportunity for him to reset. And I think that the way that the roster kind of is shaping up, it's like he gets the opportunity to have that reset, right? Like, a lot of the defense is coming back. Like, a lot of the key players are coming back. It seems like Xavier Watts is going to come back. You had Howard Cross, you had Riley Mills, you have Ben Morrison is still around, right? You had Jack Kaiser say he's coming back, right? Like, you have that defense. They're going to do everything they can at this point, it seems, to hang on to Al Golden defensively. And so you have that, and then you have the offense, which was, you're losing Joel, you're losing Blake Fisher. Like, that's a big deal, right? Like, that's a huge thing. But you get your quarterback in Riley Leonard, who is a talented player who started games. You're getting an influx of talent at wide receiver, which is important, right? Which they needed. You have those young guys that are ascending, right? The Great Houses and the Faisons. You have Jaden Thomas returning. You have the talented tight ends. You have some guys on the interior, young guys on the offensive line. You have your running backs, right? And now you get to kind of like reset with your offensive coordinator. And I think that it just looks to me like he's almost doing this from a position of strength rather than a position of like weakness that I thought he kind of had, especially in his first year and a little bit last year, right? Because he was caught off guard with Tommy Rees leaving when he did, right? So even that, he was caught off guard. I think for this one, they kind of knew, right? I mean, we had heard a lot through the year, like Freeman was not happy with the offense. Maybe it wasn't necessarily Parker, but he wasn't happy with the offense.
Yeah.
And then all of that kind of went away. And then there were rumblings like, well, some teams are interested in Gerad Parker as a head coach, school like Troy, right? And so that's kind of what matriculated. I thought Marcus played this very well in terms of just like how to handle it. Never threw his coach under the bus. Like,
nor should you,
but never did it. He played it out. He let the process play out, and here he is. He got his quarterback. He has his wide receivers. He has his running backs, and he is ready to move forward.
Masterful.
I think Marcus really, like, I think, people are kind of caught up in like the decision to keep Parker, which wasn't really a decision at all. The way that he played this out, I think shows a lot of savvy on his part.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt. I saw one guy, I think Justin Alley, who, and I get his points and everything, saying that he didn't want Mike Denbrock and saying that, he had a terrible offense at Notre Dame. Well, first of all, he didn't have a terrible offense. They had a terrible defense his first year that he was there. And so that's the situation that you run into. And the second year, what happened was Brian Kelly felt like he was going to get some hot up and coming offensive coordinator, and then decided they were going to somehow coexist and co-offensive coordinate. And that's just a recipe for disaster. That was a terrible decision by Brian Kelly, and caused all kinds of friction based off of everything I heard in the offensive room. And that's the reason that a lot of that happened, and why the offense was terrible is, there was two guys who were wanting the same job, and it caused a lot of friction, and that was just not a good situation for anybody. And that was a terrible decision by Brian Kelly doing that. And so we'll see what happens. I don't know. We'll have to see what all comes of this. But I think your point in that, Marcus Freeman played this well, I think is very valid. I think he did a great job of knowing, hey, things change. And the last thing you want to do is paint yourself in a corner with anything, because you just never know what's going to happen. So, and this is why I keep trying to tell Irish fans over the years, just don't read too much in what is said in the press conference. It's said for a reason. That doesn't mean it's truth. It doesn't mean it's truth. And so you can't just take everything that's said in a press conference by coaches as that's 100% truth. Just see what happens when it's all said and done, and see where their chips fall. I've been doing this a long time, so I know a lot of times what is said isn't exactly the way people feel about things, and you just got to be smart about that. And I think we as a staff try and tell folks, hey, don't necessarily believe this, don't buy into this. He has to say this because of X, Y, and Z, and that's the way it is. Now, I don't know. I guess, Greg, at this point, you have to make Gino the OC for the bowl game. I think he's got to be the guy. I'm sure it'll be a collective effort amongst the guys, but I got to figure Gino will be the guy calling plays, and we'll see. I mean, Greg, I've never been an offensive coordinator. I mean, how would that, look, you're done in Wednesday. You know what I mean? Like, you're done practicing here on Wednesday. Yeah. So all of a sudden you get thrown into the fire here. If you're Gino, I mean, do you think this impacts the game at all, and what they do? What are your thoughts?
Well, it's a very good advantage for Notre Dame that Gino is a quarterback's coach and not the OC, right? So the OC is not the quarterback's coach this time. Like if this was Tommy Rees last year and he was leaving right before the bowl, and that'd be a big problem because he's not he would be the quarterback's coach as well, right? Yeah. Gino is the quarterback's coach. He's still around, so he knows Steve Angeli, right? He knows Steve Angeli better than anyone on this coaching staff.
Great point.
Including Gerad Parker, right? So that in that sense, it's seamless. He knows his quarterback. He knows what he can do. The other part is, I'm sure he's been a part of game plans, right? He's definitely been a part of game plans in that way. I think Dylan McCullough is the running game coordinator. He's still on staff, so he's already coordinating that side of the ball. And Gino has experience calling plays. So I think he knows, obviously knows the playbook. So the way, the operation standpoint, I think it'll be fine. It'll be interesting because Gino he's always on the field, right? He's been on the field this year. Where does he want to coach from? Where does he want to call plays from? Does he want to go up in the booth? Does he want to come? I mean, this is kind of like inside baseball stuff, but it kind of matters for the operation of the game itself, right? Because I imagine Steve Angeli, he wants to be down there talking to him and being able to, because it's his first start ever, right? And so he's used to talking to the quarterback on the field. Like, does he want to stay down in the field? Like, that's going to be interesting. Like maybe McCullough goes up in the booth, right? Yeah. And they kind of he helps out that way. So that'll be interesting. But I think the fact that the McCullough is already the running game coordinator and that Gino is the quarterback coach, I think it's going to help a lot. I think it'll help a lot in this game, and it'll help Steve Angeli specifically.
It's a good point about the quarterback too. I mean, I didn't even think about that. That was a very good point, because you got two guys who have never really played in Angeli and Minchie, and now you got to design a game around them. And, so I think that's a good point. We'll see what happens. Now, does it change if let's just say that Denbrock becomes a guy? Let's just say that. Does it change how you recruit? I mean, do you think that they run a pretty similar offense to what Marcus wants to run down at LSU?
I think how you recruit. I think that they run an offense that I think, first of all, like greatly benefits CJ Carr and Deuce Knight, if it happens to be like Denbrock or whoever, right? I think if it was Denbrock, and I think if it was let's just say the Moore from Missouri, I think they should be over the moon with that. Yeah, 100%. Because I think it absolutely fits them. It fits what they were doing already, and it fits what their skill set is. Like CJ Carr's working out of the shotgun all the time. Like he's always doing like zone read things, like out of the shotgun and they're out of spread. Like he's like never under center. The same with Deuce, right? So I think from the way that they recruit, I think would be fine. It's interesting because I don't know how much power would be involved in front of the two tight ends. So like maybe the tight ends are would be a little bit like side-eyed about it, because like Denbrock, they have a very good tight end at LSU. He was very young and he's good, but like they're in 11 almost all the time, right? Notre Dame was a very heavy 11 team when Denbrock was the offensive coordinator, right? So you had it was always like Cole Kmet, and then it was Alize Mack, and then it was Tyler Eifert, and then it was like on and on and on. Like it was always the one guy, and it was never like the two guys, right? And so that's a little bit different, right? Like would there be as much 12? Again, like we're super speculating on this because like this move literally just happened, right? I think that while we suspected this was possible, I definitely had not heard about this until today. Yeah. So I think you would maybe.
I feel bad, but now people know that I don't even tell you half the stuff until I know. No, I don't. I mean, I think a lot of people think that I know all this stuff and I'm telling all these people, but I just can't, folks, because it just leaks and I don't want to cause any problems. That's just the way it is. I don't want to cause any problems, and so you just got to be smart about doing this. And there have been times where I haven't necessarily been smart and I've learned my lesson too. So it just is what it is now. But I do think you bring up some great points about 11 versus 12, and I think, with LSU, they have the opportunity to get some wide receivers that maybe Notre Dame doesn't currently have on the roster. And that may change some things about what Denbrock would do initially, but we'll see. Now, folks, if you're out there, I know there's a bunch of you here. If you have questions you'd like to ask us, feel free to ask us questions. I'm sure Greg and I will be more than happy to answer it. I see the first question is Greg a leaker? No, not at all. Greg is not a leaker. But again, I just I gotta be careful, folks.
I think I
gotta be real careful
when things are out, like when things are out there, right? It's like when you tell someone, it's almost like the universe.
Oh yeah.
Like once you put something out there, it's like the universe knows, and then it just becomes like we don't look. Here's another example of this, right? Like Matt. Well, what happened? What Matt over the weekend? Something broke very recently.
Yeah, and I don't remember, and it just all of a sudden, boom.
You didn't even tell us. He puts in intel that Jagusa's working at left tackle.
Yeah,
and it's like, listen.
You might have tell us that. Yeah.
We do Tuesday, Thursday podcasts. People talk about the team. You can't tell me that Jagusa's working at left tackle like this. Like Evan says, do you work at the NSA? Like these aren't state secrets, but Matt doesn't tell me this. And he puts it in his intel article, which is fine. Yeah. Right. It's for the subscribers. That's totally fine. But I'm just saying, like, that is so, like, if Matt's not telling me who that someone's working left tackle, we're not going to hear about the whether or not Notre Dame's moving on from the offensive coordinator.
Funny story about this, Greg. So I called Matt today and I said, hey, I got to tell you this. Story is breaking. It's going to break today. I'm telling you now so you can have a story ready. Okay, blah blah blah. And I said, yeah, I'd heard Parker, maybe moving on and may have got a head coaching job. And he said, at Troy? And I'm like, well, you already knew this. You didn't tell me. I mean, he didn't even tell me. So yeah, we need to do something about this Matt guy and get him in line here.
It's terrible.
I know, but that's just Matt. That's just the way he's always been.
You gotta wait for the background check.
He doesn't even trust. He doesn't even trust the boss.
It's terrible. It's awful. CFB Hurts, thank you for the super chat. If we really want to supercharge the offense, then the answer is BVG. He revived countless offenses while at Notre Dame. That's good stuff.
That is
supercharge the offense. And you know what, Mike? If you want to if you have a website that you want to supercharge, or you have a video or something in your life, an announcement, some engagement, or a highlight video, and you want to supercharge that, then one thing you can do is go over to VSRmediaCompany.com, which is founded by Notre Dame football pregame host and Emmy Award-winning anchor Vahid Sadrazadeh. VSR Media provides professional and cinematic video and photo. Whether you're looking for a collegiate or pro-level highlight reel, have a personal story to tell, or are aiming to diversify and grow your business, VSR Media specializes in short and long-form video storytelling, social media management, and website design. VSR Media also captures professional headshots, senior, and sports photos. Contact them at VSRmediaCompany.com. Mention Irish Sports Daily to receive 20% off your first project. Visit them online or give them a call at 574-800-9106.
All right.
Someone asked about the here we go. Michael asked a question about the strength coach. The rumor, we don't know for sure. Lauren, what was the name?
I can't even remember. I can't even remember off the top of my head. We'll have to look it up. I can't remember either.
My head is a flutter.
That was the other one that Matt just kind of dropped a bomb on us, and we didn't even know about. He's been doing that lately. We're going to have to ask him about it. But that's just Matt. That's just the way he is. He usually doesn't say anything unless he has a pretty good understanding and knowing.
Lauren Landau.
The same way. Yeah.
Lauren Landau. It's probably in the chat by this point. But yeah, Lauren Landau, the leading front runner for the strength and conditioning.
Yeah. So I don't know how to feel about it. You coach at the Broncos and you feel pretty good about it. There's a lot of people who have said some things about soft tissue issues and things like that. I think so much of that is situational and luck more than anything. But I guess the surprise to me is I thought I would see more kind of college experience on the resume. That was the thing that kind of, if it or maybe more pro, experience. Now we know he's trained a lot of pro athletes, but individual training versus a whole team training is something, quite different. So that to me was the surprise for me when I looked at the resume. What did you think, Greg?
The fact that he's out of football right now was odd to me.
Yeah.
Right. He's not in football. So that's not good though. I mean, I don't want to say not good. That was something that I was like, oh, that's interesting. The fact that he was fired from his last job is not the best fact ever. But look, Jamie has his cousin who is in the strength and conditioning world. And I believe he knows, I don't know if he knows Landau like personally, or if he knows of him from the profession. Jamie's going to have some intel on that the next time I talk to him, and we all talk to him. So that'll be interesting to track and to get his intel on that, because Jamie's going to have a lot of good stuff. And I think the thing about it is, we look at the resume and we look at things that, he's not in football and he was fired from his last job or whatever the case may be. It's not like the Denver Broncos were running the classiest organization ever in terms of just like competence in the last few years, right? Like they have not been a very good operation there. So like, is he caught up in just the dysfunction of their organization? Maybe he was, right? So that's something you're going to want to look into. And the other part Jamie talks about a lot is like, we don't really know what makes someone like a good strength and conditioning coach and one that like does, right? So like Mickey Mariotti is a very famous example of like, he was basically run out of Notre Dame, was no one liked him. They thought he was the cause of a lot of problems. Well, he goes to Ohio State and he's a fantastic, strength and conditioning coach there. And it's given like a ton of credit for like building up their program and kind of where it is today. So, it's just you gotta take a wait and see with this stuff. And if it happens to be him, then that's what we'll do. Right. I'm sure he's, going to have some really good like quotes when he comes out, right? The guys are going to be talking about how things are different, on and on and on. The proof will be in the pudding on that.
Yeah. Well, we'll just have to see. I don't really know much about him to really, formulate an opinion on it. The one thing I will say, Greg, is in this situation, Marcus Freeman has had far more time to research this than you normally would, because normally if it's a situation where you're changing at the end of the year, right before, and it's bowl season, all that type of stuff, and you're interviewing guys. He has had a whole 5-6 months where he's been able to kind of research this. And you got to figure with that much time, I'm sure he's had people on the project, maybe not him specifically, but people on the project trying to find who makes the most sense and why. And if I feel better about knowing it wouldn't be a rushed job. It would be something that would be very, very researched well. I know for a fact a very high quality name was interested in the job and actually reached out about the job. And to be honest, I was kind of surprised that the person was not hired if that's what happens, because of the name and kind of the success the guy has had. Now, if this guy wasn't hired and they hired somebody else, it's because they did a tremendous amount of research and felt like this was the best situation for Notre Dame, because based off of all I know is the guy had reached out. I don't know whether they could agree on numbers and maybe that's why it didn't work out or what. But I don't think numbers would be an issue at a strength coach right now. I think it would be just finding the right guy. And so to me, I think that's the biggest thing is they would have had done a tremendous amount of research to know what the best options were at this point. And plenty of time to kind of negotiate with the person too.
Yeah. Question, going back to the OCs thing. What do you think the timeline is here? Like, it's hard because of the bowl game. Like, that's coming up, right? So they need to Marcus Freeman has a lot on his plate right now in terms of just preparing the team. So there's that going on. But what do you think? Like, will it be relatively quickly, right? Like, I think that, because Greg Wasserman says, like, how long has this been in the works? I get the feeling it has been more than a few days, right? Like, I think it's fair to say Marcus Freeman has probably been thinking about this at least for a good amount of time.
Well, I'm sure that, and again, I'd heard that there were, other options for Gerad Parker that were, kind of presented that may potentially materialize even before this. And if that's the case, then I'm sure Marcus Freeman's like, I got to come up with some answers, because what happens if this guy takes this job? And let's be honest, there's no surprises when it comes to these coaching searches amongst the coaches. Right. All the coaches know what's going on, because the agents talk. And so all the coaches know that somebody's up for a job. They just know this. And more so than the media does. And so they're aware of what's going on. So I'm sure Marcus Freeman had been doing some research on this to begin with. Now, as far as timeline goes, I think it depends on who it is. If it's a guy like Mike Denbrock, you probably don't need to do a whole lot of research about who he is and what he can do. You're not going to get on the phone and talk to Brian Kelly about what he thinks about Mike Denbrock or other coaches. You've already worked with a guy. You know what the situation is. Notre Dame knows what the situation is with him. So I think that hire could happen quickly. If that's not the guy they're pursuing and they're looking at other people, it may take a while. If you're Denbrock and say you agree to something at this point, do you want to coach the LSU game? Does Notre Dame, want you not to coach the game? Do they want to be able to announce you as an offensive coordinator early? I don't know. All these things are stuff that needs to be discussed and negotiated. And look, if you're if you're Brian Kelly, the last thing you want to come out right now is that Mike Denbrock's taken the job, 2 days before signing day. So that would not be a good situation for him. So there's a lot of things that would need to be negotiated before any of this would happen. But again, I think if it's somebody like Denbrock, it'd probably be fairly quickly. If it's somebody else, it may take a while. And it may take a while for Denbrock too, because he may want to just not say anything until after the bowl game too.
Maybe. I mean, as far as BK goes, you know what?
We're not concerned about Brian Kelly.
You know what else wasn't a good situation? Mike,
no doubt.
When he left the team and tried to take the whole staff and the whole program with him in like 3 days. That was also.
And don't you think that, Notre Dame did not forget that? I guarantee you, Jack Swarbrick didn't forget that.
No. So I don't.
I'm honestly, Jack Swarbrick. I find an extra $200,000 to figure out how to get him over here.
That's another part too.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
I think the optics of that as well. Like you talk about just like, and this goes for any coach, anyone who it might be. Like that Notre Dame, and I think honestly, to be honest with you, I think Notre Dame wants to like send a message here, just like, hey, we have money too, kind of like they're doing in the NIL space.
Yeah.
Like I think they're doing that in like a little subtle way. I will say
this, Greg. I've never, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, buddy. I've never been more encouraged by what I see from Notre Dame's brass and board of trustees, what they're doing. And kind of getting behind this. I've never been more encouraged in the 20 some years I've been in it, almost 25 years. I've never been more encouraged by the support that I feel like the Notre Dame program is getting than they are right now. That's very exciting. So anyway, I'll go ahead, Greg. I just wanted to put that in.
No,
there.
you're good. You're good. I mean, that's you're kind of capping the point that I was making, right? Like, I think Notre Dame wants to throw their weight around a little bit, and I think this is an opportunity for them to do that. Someone else brought up Ryan Grubb. I just don't see it. I don't. He has a good situation at Washington. Washington's now going to the Big Ten, right? So their situation has improved there. So I don't see that happening. He didn't go to Alabama, right? And honestly, he's not like a fit. What he wants to do is just, it's not what Notre Dame wants to do. I don't want to say Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman does not want to play that way. He just does not, right? So I think that's the deal. Michael asked, with the early signing period a few days away, how will this impact the offensive side of the ball? So from a recruiting,
there's going to be a lot of phone calls.
A lot of phone calls from a recruiting standpoint. Like, do you think this matters to like Cam Williams or Micah Gilbert or Logan Saldate or CJ Carr?
I don't think so, because their position coaches are there. The only one it may would be Jack Larson, but when you look at the situation, you're like, look, Notre Dame's had great tight ends coaches over the years. I'm sure they're going to get another great one this year. If he hears the name like Mike Denbrock is a possibility, I'd be very encouraged if I were Jack Larson, if that were the case, or any tight end that would be looking at it. And let's be honest, I think Gerad Parker's a really good tight ends coach. There's no doubt about it. He's a very good tight ends coach. I don't think there's been a better one at Notre Dame in a long time than Mike Denbrock. He's just and look, Parker's done a great job with the tight ends. I'd put him number 2 at this point, based off all the other guys they've had in a while. But there's no question Mike Denbrock has the longevity and the numbers of guys that he's put in the NFL, Rudolph, all these different guys that he's had over the years. And I was trying to think of who was a guy that was from Minnesota that was a really good player, didn't quite pan out in the NFL. He was a really good player.
Offensive player?
Yeah, he was a tight end from Minnesota. Gosh, name slips my mind, but he was before Eifert. The guy right before Eifert.
Okay.
I can't remember his name, but and of course Tyler Eifert, he developed.
Kyle Rudolph.
No, it was after before Rudolph and before
Carlson.
Yeah, John Carlson. That's it. Okay. That's exactly it. Yep. All right. Anybody? Any other questions you guys have? Greg, I'll be happy to answer.
Ray John asked who gets a chance at it on the staff.
I'd say Gino.
It only be Gino. Here's the other part, though. As far as the staff, right? I think that you know, if it's because here's the thing, DMC, Dylan McCullough, like I think it was kind of a long shot for him to be on the staff anyway. But if the offensive coordinator position comes open and he doesn't get it, I don't know how he would feel about it personally, but like it would make it probably more likely that he would move on, just because you're bringing it. I don't think Mike Denbrock is like has to have like a certain running back coach. It just like this is the job that he wants. Like he wants to be an OC, right? And so I think that it would just kind of further like, yeah, like I need to go somewhere to be an OC so I can get to be an OC at Notre Dame. I think that's probably what he would want, right? And so that like there's something to consider there.
I think the OCs, their big thing is O-line coach. They got to be on the same page with the O-line coach and make sure that they're blocking things the way they want and they see the same things. I think if there's anything, it'd be O-line coach. But, I don't think that means that he'd want to bring an O-line coach in. Joe Rudolph certainly has a lot of pedigree and success. I think if anything, it would be let's see how it works with Joe Rudolph type of situation before. And, and again, I think that's why it probably makes as much sense as anything too, is that, Denbrock's not going to want to come in and make a whole lot of wholesale changes as an offensive coordinator where a lot of other guys would, hey, I want to bring my O-line coach. Plus I want to bring the wide receivers coach. Well, sorry, we can't do that because we just hired a wide receivers coach. So, but yeah, I think that, wouldn't you agree? I think that that's kind of the thing that most OCs care about is, we got to be on the same page up front.
Yeah, like he definitely has to have like a good relationship with the offensive line coach. I mean, and then frankly, like that was a big problem with Chip Long and Jeff Quinn.
Yeah,
those two didn't see eye to eye. Like
it
was a big issue. Yeah, so that like it was a like big concern, and that's why there was a lot of dysfunction there. So Mason Plummer's bringing up Kirby Moore. We talked about him earlier. I had independently heard just like before we started, like right a little bit after Mike told me, he's like, hey, we need to get ready to do a show. Someone, had kind of brought up his name to me as someone who Notre Dame might be looking at. Right. And so we talked about him earlier. I think he would be a good hire. I think he would be, he did a really good job at Missouri. And they've run really good offenses there. And it would
be call the plays though. That's the thing that people just don't seem to know.
There's a lot of that right in college football now. Like Brian Hartline, did he call the plays?
Yeah.
Right. Is he the offensive coordinator? Like so to me, it's like if Notre Dame, but the thing with Brian Hartline too, is like, you just hired Mike Brown. Like, what is Brian Hartline going to do beyond call plays?
Yeah.
Like, it almost
can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
somebody would have to be fired and you're not going to fire Mike Brown when you just hired him. So,
no.
So that's why I just don't think it makes a whole lot of sense. And you were just, I can't remember, you were just talking about something. Anyway, go ahead, Greg.
But this is why, like, the fact that like you had heard the name Denbrock, it just like, to me, you just go all in there, in my opinion.
If you can,
you go all in. The money and the good. Honestly, the thing for Denbrock too, and his agent was probably in on this. Like, hey, sign an extension because that sets your price.
Yeah,
that sets what it's going to be. If you want it to be him, then you have to pay more than this. And I understand that LSU can match, but like at that point, it's like you are telling Denbrock, like, hey, like let's say you make, I don't know, $2 million. It's like, all right, Notre Dame says, all right, we'll pay you 2.5, right? Maybe LSU comes back with 3, but I think that Notre Dame just going with 2.5 is enough for Denbrock to say, you know what, I'm taking it. Like Notre Dame stepped up and they did what they had to do. They're not going to go in perpetuity. I want to get back to Notre Dame. Because here's the other part. Let's say Marcus Freeman succeeds and then he moves on to Ohio State and Denbrock does a good job as OC. Guess who's sitting there with a job opening at Notre Dame for the head coach?
Yeah,
Mike Denbrock is, and like that, he's got institutional knowledge. Again, he's been at Notre Dame a bunch. He's succeeded every time he's been at Notre Dame. I think that would be a great fit for him. So to me, you go get him. If he's interested, you go get him.
You just got to do whatever you can.
That's
If you can get him, and if he, has the contract that makes it worth, going to get him. And again, money I think is part of it, but at the same time, I don't think that money is everything to these guys in the end. If you're making 2.5 versus 2 or 3 versus whatever, it doesn't really matter that much. And it's more about happiness, and do you like where you're working, and do you believe in what you have, and that type of thing. So look, if I'm Mike Denbrock, I look at the situation and I say, I'm a little long in the tooth at this point. I want to find a happy home where I can be somewhere for the next 5-6 years and just coach football, make my money and then go retire. What I don't want to do is have to leave and go 3 other places and drag my wife and son yet again to 3 different places. So, when you get to be my age, and Mike's I think he's 60 now, when you get to be that age, you start worrying about, what am I going to, what do I want the rest of my working life to look like? And he's in a position to where he gets to kind of control that, which is a very good position to be in, somebody his age. And so, we'll see what happens. And again, there's going to be other guys. There's going to be other names pop up. Marcus Freeman would be an idiot just to say, this is our guy and we're not going to look at anybody else. I hope they're firing up the phones and, trying to see who else is out there and all that type of thing. But I think when you look at what makes the most sense, this makes the most sense. That does not mean it's going to happen, but I think it makes the most sense at this point.
Yeah. And that's where it kind of is, like right at the initial take on the first hour of finding out this is happening. Like, I think that's where it is. Frank Vitovich asking the important questions. Would Denbrock have played Kyle at wide receiver if he was in Notre Dame at the time? I have to believe he would have. You do everything you can. You do everything you can to win the games. You have talented players. You put them out there. And you have them make plays. And that's what you do, and that's what they should have done. So, but maybe Notre Dame hopefully will finally turn the corner there.
Hey, Greg, by the way, I just wanted to get your thoughts real quick. Signing day is Wednesday. I'm doing my kind of I'm looking through the senior film and kind of writing this stuff down about what I think. Have you had a chance to check out some senior film on any of these guys? Anybody stand out to you?
Senior film, Saldate to me has been a revelation. Just in terms of like what my initial thought. Again, I pretty famously looked at his sophomore tape and thought it was his junior tape. And I was like, I don't get it. And I don't see it. Yeah. And then I saw his junior tape and I was like, oh, okay. Now I understand. And now that I've seen his senior tape, I really understand. Yeah. Just that he's got that explosiveness and he's got that long speed and he's a big time player. And so that's important. I think Micah Gilbert, I've always liked him. And I focus on the skill guys because that's a position I played. I let Jamie do the interior boys, but I think Micah Gilbert, I love his body. I love his explosiveness, like run after catch. Usually don't see a ton of run after catch for a boundary, right? That's not usually how it happens. And then Cam Williams, just explosive. He's unbelievable.
I think he's the most talented receiver they've signed since I've been doing this. I really do.
Right. He's
upside.
He's got all of it. I mean, he really does. The only thing he wishes maybe like an inch or two taller, but beyond that, I think you're good. Kedron Young is really took a big jump. He looks good. Aeneas Williams, I think that he really just like the versatility in his game really shined this year. The corners, they have the measurables. Like Leonard Moore has like Jamie put it out in his rewatch notes today. That's on irisportsdaily.com. Everyone should check that out. He's got those long arms. That's one thing that Ben Morrison has, that is really kind of under the radar. It says his arms are just super long. Yeah. And so he's got good length there. And then the other safety. So, but those are the guys that kind of stood out to me is they've got some real talent at those skill positions. And then you have the offensive line and those guys, and Jamie can go into those, but that's kind of where I'm at with them.
Yeah. It's interesting because I look at the class and I think this is one of the more underrated when it comes to the national rankings that Notre Dame has signed in a while. I'm going to guess it's probably going to end up in the 10-12 range when it's all said and done, which is fine. But I think when you look at some of the players, there's a lot of underrated players in there that I think are pretty good. I just watched Teddy Rizak's film and I was surprised. I knew he was a pretty good player, but gosh, when you look at his film, that guy can flat run, and he's a legit 6'5". I know he runs a legit 4.6. Legit timed, I know that for a fact. And so when you're 6'5", 200 pounds and you run a 4.6 and you can cover like he can, he's played safety the whole time, we'll see. But athletically off the charts, you got to look at that and say, okay, I get it. And then there's just a lot of guys. We're going to be talking about it, signing day, talking about a lot of the different stuff. But I thought Carson Hobbs made a huge jump in his. I really liked what I saw in Carson Hobbs. Very, very impressive, and I think he's going to be a really good player when it's all said and done. Love the lineman. Bryce Young, I think, is a highly, highly, highly underrated player. I think he's a top 50 player. I really do. I like him a lot better than I liked Keon Keeley. I think that he's going to be a better player than Keon Keeley when it's all said and done. So, all right, guys, I know Greg's got stuff to do, and I got to get back to getting my signing day stuff put together here. If there's more breaking news, I'm sure Greg and I will try and get back on if we have the opportunity. But as of now, we just kind of wanted to get our initial thoughts on this, and I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yep. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We'll be back sometime this week. Jamie's traveling, so I need to coordinate with him. You got Power Hour with him tomorrow, so you're going to get reaction there as well. So Jamie and I, we might have a different schedule this week because we just recorded, so maybe we'll come back on Wednesday. I'll talk to Jamie about what's going to go happen there. So stay locked in, hit subscribe, hit the like, hit the notification bell so you know whenever it is we are going live. Stay locked into irishsportsdaily.com. There's going to be a ton of information, right, on candidates and things of that nature. Notre Dame by the way, they just officially announced Gerad Parker is off to Troy University. It's going to be Gino Guidugli is going to be the offensive coordinator, and Caleb Carbine, a senior analyst on the offensive staff, will serve as the tight ends coach. So just kind of put a bow on that. So thank you again, everyone. We'll talk to you soon. Keep hitting and hustling.